Y'all shut up now!
Well, there's no reason to be sorry for liking Sweet Johnny. Sweet Johnny likes you too.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we got a very awesome episode for you. All right, Sweet Johnny's back at it again. Today we're gonna be sciencing it up in this bit. We are gonna be putting some Coca-Cola inside some items in a jar, let it set for a week, and see what it does. Woo! Sweet Johnny! Woo! Give it up for science, yeah! Woo! Science! Oh, my back. Holy guacamole, Batman. Talk about product placement. Good Lord. All right, we got a Coca-Cola here, and in no way, shape, or form am I sponsored by Coca-Cola. But we've got our Coca-Cola here. We've got our jars. We're going to put items in the jars, pour the Coca-Cola in them, and you guys know how this works. We're going to let them set for a week, come back, and check the results. All right, I'd say it's probably time to get started. Where's my products? Oh, I know. Let me go get them here. All right, let me see where these are. Idiots can't see me. Oh my god, what losers. All right, I'm back and I've got some of our products here. Okay, we've got some household chemicals here. Let me go grab some more stuff. A little bit tired. I don't want to take the stairs. Let me take the elevator. Oh my god, I can't believe this is working. All right. Okay, I got some more stuff here. All right, I'll explain everything in a minute. Let me go grab our jars. Oh my god, it flooded. I guess I should use my canoe to go get the rest of the stuff. Oh my god, my canoe sunk. I had to swim all the way back here. Okay, we've got our lovely little jars in a box here. We've got a bunch of them. I think we have about 12 jars here. So, all right, we've got our 12 empty jars that we're going to be putting our items in and then pouring Coca-Cola inside of it. All right, now, since this is a special science experiment, today I will not be known as Sweet Johnny. Today I will be known as Scientist Johnny. All right, so let's go over the items we're going to use. All right, we've got some crackers, a paper towel, we've got some spaghetti noodles, some bread, some Tums, we've got some old crusted pennies here that we're going to be using, put in the jars with the Coke, see if it cleans them. We got a bait, an egg, a battery. We're going to collect some leaves, dandelions, stuff like that, put that in there. Now, the reason for this science experiment is, I don't know if anybody remembers, but a long time ago, a lady sued Coca-Cola because she claimed she found a rat inside of her Coca-Cola can. Well, Coca-Cola ended up winning the case because they said the chemicals and poisons inside the Coca-Cola would have dissolved the rat by the time it got to the customer.
Oh my goodness!
Disgusting. What are you gonna do? Now, some of these jars don't have lids, so we ran up to the dollar store, bought these little lid plastic caps here. We're gonna cover them, and that should do the trick there. Get them covered, nothing will get into them, nothing will get out. All right, without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, let's go ahead and get started here, get our products out of the way. First, we're gonna grab one of the big jars here. Looks like it was pickles was last used in it. Let's pop the lid off. All right, let's see. Our first item here, we're probably gonna go with bread. Now, we've got nothing but the best for this experiment. Bunny bread here. That's what I said, bunny bread. Let's get this little tie off here. Get out a piece of bread, not the hill. We're not gonna use the hill. We're gonna use just a simple piece of bread. Now, bread has been modified over the years, and basically now it's just a sponge-like material. But we're gonna put it in our jar. Here we go, nice. All right, let me get this Coca-Cola here. Pop the top open off this bad boy. All right, got our Coca-Cola. Let's pour it in the jar. Nice, looking good. Bread's already soggy and nasty. Gross. Ugh. All right. Put our lid on. Check this out. All right, we've got our jar full of Coca-Cola with bread setting inside of it. I don't know if you can see that there, but it's right there. It's set and floating at the top. As it absorbs more, it's probably going to soak to the bottom or just dissolve completely. All right, bread, Coca-Cola right here. All right. And for our next item here, we've got Scrub Buddies Scrub Sponge Pads. All right, we're gonna pop the lid off this bad boy here. Gonna stick the sponge here inside. Nice. Get another Coca-Cola. Pop the bad boy off like so. Pour it in there. Nice, nice. Ooh, the sponge is already turning brown. It's wanting to go to the top. Let that fuzz settle down some. There we go. Nice, nice. All right. Nice. Pop the lid on. All right, we've got our jar with our sponge inside, soaking in Coca-Cola. We're gonna set it aside here by the piece of bread and give it a week and see what happens. All right, now we've got another empty jar here. All right, stick some crackers in this bad boy. Got some crackers there, nice. Let's go ahead and put some more. Got our crackers in there. Okay, now let's go ahead and pop open another Coca-Cola. Nice. Pour that in there with the crackers. Yeah, that looks disgusting. Gross. Ugh. Oh, wow. Looks like the crackers. All right, it looks like the crackers is already starting to dissolve a little bit. It's cracked some in half and everything. Oof. This is going to be awesome to see what it does after a week. So let's go ahead and put it beside our other items here. And let's grab another jar and see what we got going on. All right, and for this one, we're going to go ahead and get our pennies in a jar. These are pennies. They're corroded, they're nasty, they're in bad shape here. So we're going to put some Coca-Cola in there and see if the Coca-Cola will clean these pennies. All right, set them in there. Oh. All right, so we've got our can with the pennies in them. Okay, so let's open up our Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola. All right, nice. Pour that in there. Oh, gross. All right, that one's almost full. Wow. You can't see these pennies at all, but believe me when I tell you, they've got pennies in them. I don't know if you can see the bottom there, but they're there. Get this monstrosity out of here. All right, now let's pop one of our little plastic lids on top of it, cover the whole thing. There we go, nice. So we've got our pennies. All right, and for the next one, we're gonna use some of these paper towels. Looks like the paper towels are from Members Mark Company, and it is a mega roll, up to 150 paper towels. What we're gonna do, we're just gonna open this thing up here, get some paper towels, some handfuls, 2, 3, and let's just stuff our jar with these paper towels. Stick those in there. Nice. I think that's pretty full. We got about 5, 6 of those babies in there, so definitely will do something. Open this thing up. Now we're gonna pour it in there with our paper towels. We're gonna see if by the end, after a week, if this completely dissolves the paper towels or not. They're already soaking up all the Coke. Oh, gross. Oh, man. Wow. All right, let's check this out. All right, here is our paper towel soaking in Coca-Cola, as you can tell. All right, let's put this on the table. And let's move on to our next item. La-da-doo. All right, we got through those. Now, let's go ahead and use some of these Tums. These are some off-brand Tums. They still work just as good as the expensive brand. Okay, let's get our jar. All right, pour some Tums in there. Nice, nice. One for good luck. Okay, we've got our Tums in there. Okay. Oh my God, those are pretty dang good. Thought I might do this up close just in case it starts changing colors or dissolving immediately. Got a Coke. I still see a couple Tums at the bottom. See them there? Now, I bet after a week, if it doesn't dissolve these, I bet if we eat one, it's gonna taste like one of those soda pop cap candies. So let's go ahead and get one of our caps here. Put our caps on this thing. All right, we've got our Tums. All right, now for the next one, I think we're gonna go ahead and put this egg in a jar, okay? We cannot slam it. We're gonna have to easily do this. Get in there, little buddy. Nice, nice. All right, the egg is in the bottom of the jar there. Let's go ahead and open one of these. Ooh, Coca-Cola. Now, I don't know exactly what it's going to do to this egg. If there's a crack in it, I'm sure it will soak up inside the egg, but I wanted to see if this will actually dissolve the shell. I don't think that's too much to ask. All right, get a little cap on it there. All right, here's the egg inside the jar. You can clearly see it there, okay? Nice, we're doing good. We're moving right along here. Great. All right, let's get our other jar. I've got a little tiny AAA battery here. I don't know if you can see it. It's Energizer battery. We're gonna put in the jar. Pour some of this Coca-Cola. All right, there's the end of that one. Pop this baby open. Now we're just gonna fill it with Coke because I don't know if there's a crack in the battery. It may absorb it. I'm not exactly sure, but we got our battery inside of our jar here. Now here's our little battery inside that jar. So I'm not lying to you. There's a battery inside there. You may not be able to see it, but it's there. So let's put our little lid on. Nice, awesome. Okie dokie now. Now we're gonna do one of the fan favorites here. Now I've done many videos on destroying vapes, but we've got a vape here. We're gonna set in this jar. Now we've already done a video where we test against the elements. We've done a video where we test vapes against certain household chemicals, but we've never done a video where we test a vape against Coca-Cola. Let's go ahead, pour our Coca-Cola in here with the vape. Nice, almost. Okay, open another one. Go ahead and fill it up all the way to the top. The top of the vape is still setting out. Okay. All right, now we can barely see the vape inside there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's there. It's got bubbles on it. It's already absorbing some of the Coca-Cola. So that in itself is pretty cool, but let's go ahead and get one of these little things on it. Nice. Okay, now here comes the fun part. We're gonna go around this yard, collect some grass, leaves, dandelions. We got some gumballs, and we got 3 jars left, so we're gonna go ahead and fill some of these up. So first, why don't we go ahead and go grab some flowers, some things that are still living, and see what the Coca-Cola does to the flowers. All right, now I went around the yard and grabbed some just regular old flowers. We got some white ones, we got some yellow ones. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna stick some of these inside the jars here. We've got our yellow flowers, nice. And we're gonna put some of our white flowers inside there too. Flowers, nice. All right, so we've got our flowers in our jar here. You can see the white ones and the yellow ones. Now, let's go pour some Coke inside of these flowers. All right, let's pour this Coke inside the flowers. Whoa, that's pretty cool. Nice! Now, we've got our jar full of flowers. You can see, you can tell. Neat, neato. That's kind of cool setting in the Coke. Okay. Now, let's go ahead, get our little lid, put it on top of the flower jar. Nice. Set that there. All right, now, let me go grab some leaves and some gumballs and fill a jar up with them and see what we got going on. All right, now I went around and collected these gumballs. Now, here in the South, we call them gumballs, but other places they call them spike balls and things like that. It doesn't really matter. We're here in the South, so we're gonna call them gumballs. Put those in there. We've also collected a little walnut off the ground here. So we're gonna go ahead and stick that walnut in there. Nice. Okay, so now all we need now is to grab some leaves. So I got some leaves here, some little leaves from a tree. Let's grab some off here. Nice. Maybe a big one. Cool. Oh yeah. So we've got a big leaf here. We're gonna shove in there. Nice. Shove these smaller leaves in there. Nice. So we got the gumballs at the bottom. We got the leaves at the top. All right, let's see how good it does. Go ahead and pour the Coke in. Nice, looking good, looking good. All right, look at that. Wow. Can't really see the gumballs anymore, but you can definitely see the leaves. Okay, push that down there. Yeah. Some more Coke. Nice. All right, one of our lids here. Ooh, that's pretty. Okay, lastly, we're gonna soak up some spaghetti noodles inside the jars. So we got one jar left and we got some spaghetti noodles. So let's go ahead and get some noodles out. Nice. Break them to jar size here. I know Italians would be really, really mad how I just broke spaghetti up into pieces, but what you gonna do? All right, we got our noodles there. Here's our jar of noodles, and we're gonna add the Coke. Nice. Foaming up already, look at that. We're gonna have to take a little rest. Let that fizz settle down. Nice. More Coke. Okay, you can see the nasty, disgusting noodles in there. Wow. All right, put this lid on here. Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna leave off with, we got bread, a sponge, crackers, pennies, paper towels, the Tums, the egg, the battery, the vape, the flowers, the gumballs with the leaves and the walnut, and then we have the noodles. All right, guys, let's let these sit here for a week, come back and see the results. See if anything happened to any items within the week's time. Now, do you have any guesses? Do you have any estimates? What's gonna dissolve? What's gonna stay? What not? So, without further ado, I'll see you guys in a week. All right, guys, we are back at it again. It's been a week's time. We let these items set in these Coca-Cola jars, and now we're gonna see the final product, the final results to see what happened to each and every item. Now, let's start with our first item, our first jar here. Now, our first jar, it is a piece of bread that's been soaked in Coca-Cola. So let's get this thing. All right, we've got our bread here inside of our jar, soaking in Coca-Cola. Let's pop this baby open. Yeah. Let's pour some of this out here. Oh my God, that doesn't look like Coke anymore. That looks gross. Oh my God. Oh. We got our bread soaking in there. Yuck, disgusting. Okay, let's get our little piece of bread out and see what it did. Oh my God. Oh, that's gross. That is disgusting. Now, remember what I said about bread has been modified to be more like spongy-like and stuff? Yeah, this feels exactly like a sponge. You see, it's not falling off in pieces, really. Let me get it a good squeeze. Ah, gross. Yeah, that's disgusting. Get it. Gross. Okay, the Coca-Cola soaked into the bread. There's some of the Coca-Cola missing, about this much. So the bread soaked up the Coca-Cola, and it just turned into a nasty, disgusting, squishy mess. All right, now we're done with the first jar. Let's go ahead and move on to our second jar. Now, our second jar is the sponge that has been soaking in the Coca-Cola. Now, remember, we filled this to the top. It is now down to here. So, the sponge has soaked up some of the Coca-Cola. Okay, let's go ahead, pour this bad boy out. Pop the top. It's for my homies. Nice. That still looks like the same color, unlike the last one. That bread kind of turned the Coca-Cola into a lighter brown. All right, we got our sponge in there. Now, it's almost as if it's soaked up and absorbed the Coca-Cola like it was some kind of sponge or something. All right, now let's see how much Coca-Cola has soaked up in the sponge for the past week. All right, let me give it a good squeeze. Oh, gross. All right, well, looks like we can just clean that sponge with some soap and it's good as new. All right, smells like Coca-Cola. Why not clean the cabinet so you can have your house smell like Coca-Cola? All right, I'll tell you what, after smelling that, they need some Coca-Cola pine sol or something. Man, that smells good. Now, we finished the second jar. Let's go ahead and move on to our third jar. Our third jar here, we've had crackers soaking in Coca-Cola. All right, as you can tell, the crackers has started to soak up the Coca-Cola and dissolve a little bit. So let's go ahead and pop this bad boy open. Got to block these crackers from coming out. And ooh, the Coca-Cola. Look at that. It changed colors. Gross. Oh my God. Let's pour that out there. Oh, that's disgusting. That's gross. I thought it was going to go a lot faster than this. My goodness. Okay, so as you can see, it kind of started dissolving them a little bit. It kind of just soaked them up and broke them in pieces more than dissolving. We got our crackers here. Let's find out how nasty. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's gross. That is absolutely diabolical. Yuck. I don't know if... Oh, it smells like crackers more than it smells like Coke. Gross. Yuck. And that Coca-Cola didn't start dissolving the bread and didn't start dissolving the crackers. That might tell you that there's items in the bread and the crackers that isn't meant for human consumption if something with chemicals and poisons in it isn't going to dissolve it. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to our fourth jar here. Our fourth jar was the pennies. Now, I don't know if you can still see them in the bottom there. They're there. They're clinking around a little bit. Let's pour this out. See if it cleaned the pennies. Nice. That's coming out faster. Wonderful. Awesome. It doesn't look like it did anything to these pennies. If anything, it just made them more gross and grimy and disgusting. You know, growing up, I always heard people say you could put your change inside the Coca-Cola, let it set over a night or two, and it will clean the coins. Same thing with necklaces and stuff like that with rust on them. But after a week of pennies soaking in Coca-Cola, it did absolutely nothing. I feel sorry for the person I'm going to hand these pennies to at the checkout line because it's absolutely disgusting. All right, let's move on to our fifth jar here. And our fifth jar here is the paper towels that's been soaking in the Coca-Cola. All right, you can see them there. I filled this thing all the way up to the top, but it looks like it's kind of dissolved into the paper towels a little bit all the way down to here. So let's go ahead, pour this Coca-Cola out. Nice. Little dribble, get that dribble off there, nice. Okay, pull out our paper towels here, and they are absolutely disgusting, and they are drenched in Coca-Cola. Well, they've been sitting in a jar in a week with Coca-Cola, so that makes sense. All right, let me give this a good ring. Oh my. This is a little weird too. These, I swear, was the Great Value brand, but they held up like Bounty. I mean, look, let these dry out in the sun a little bit, and you could still use them. They're not like, it's just as strong as it was when I put it in there. So paper towels soaking in Coca-Cola for a week did almost absolutely nothing. So I guess when they show you on the commercials that Bounty soaks up more than the regular paper towel, the conclusion says that they both do the exact same thing, I guess. I don't know. All right, moving on to the next item. All right, now we're moving on to our sixth jar. And this is the one I was the most excited about because we put the Tums inside the jar here. And I said, after a week of them sitting in the Coca-Cola, it's probably going to taste like those bottle cap candies. So let's go ahead and pour this out here. Make sure none of the Tums falls out with it. Nice. So this is what we've got left. Now, the Tums were in whole pieces until I poured it out and it kind of mixed them together and stuff. But that looks disgusting. There's not a Tums for me to try, so I'm just going to have to try it right out of here. All right, let's see. No way. There is no way. That tastes just like a Coca-Cola candy bottle cap. Oh my good. Oh my God, that's delicious. Did we just find out how you make Coca-Cola bottle cap candies? My goodness. I got the recipe. I got the secret recipe. Woo! All right, now we're moving on to the next jar here. The next jar looks like the egg that has been soaking in the Coca-Cola. Let me get this off here. Spilled a little bit, that's okay. Now, we can still see the egg in there a little bit. We're gonna pour this out. Looks like it may have caused a little bit of mold or something at the top of the Coca-Cola. I don't know. But let's pour this Coca-Cola out and see what our egg has done. All right, come on, little buddy. Come on out of there. Come on. Oh my God. Okay. It has completely turned this egg brown. It dyed it. Now, I'm scared to open it to see if Coca-Cola got inside of it, but let's see. Oh, no Coca-Cola got inside the egg. It just dyed the outside of the egg. What a bummer. All right, now moving on to the next jar. I gotta say, this part of the video is way much more funner than actually putting the items in the jars. All right, moving on to the next jar. What do we got here? All right, it's our Energizer battery. We're gonna see if anything soaked up into it or if it leaked out any like battery acid or anything like that. So let's check this out. All right, we got our little battery in there. You can see it right there. Nice. Okay, let's pour this out. Very nice. Got the battery here. Now, pour this bad boy out. Got the battery. And it doesn't look like any battery acid is coming out. It doesn't look like Coca-Cola soaked up into the battery. Just the outside of the battery is wet and sticky. So, I don't know with it being Energizer battery that made a difference or what, but no Coca-Cola seemed like it soaked into the battery. So, let's move on to the next jar. All right, boys and girls, we've got 4 jars left. Now, let's grab this next one and see what it did to the item inside. What is it? Oh, surprise, surprise, it's our little bait that we soaked in Coca-Cola for a week. Now, I don't know if it did anything. We're going to go ahead and pour the Coke out here. Nice. Get that little guy out there. Ooh, now the true test is it going to smoke with Coca-Cola filling the inside? Now, let's give it a shot. Oh, I don't know what that was, but that wasn't no Coca-Cola. Ugh, that was disgusting. All right, let's move on to our next item. All right, now we're going to focus on the flowers that have been soaked in the Coca-Cola here. So let me go ahead and get this thing off. Let me show you what it looks like. All right, we've got our flowers. And we filled it up to the top, so you can see on all this, it's kind of lightening up a little bit. So whatever's been in here has soaked up the Coca-Cola that we filled up to here. We also, interesting enough, we have mold inside of the flowers. So Coca-Cola definitely caused some kind of mold reaction, but it didn't dissolve the flowers. Now I'm curious to know, maybe a month inside Coca-Cola, will it dissolve the flowers? I don't know. Let's get this Coke out and see what it did. All right, the flowers have been fermenting in Coca-Cola. It just looks like it kind of killed them more than anything. Didn't really dissolve them, but we did have the fungus growing on top, which is really weird. Let's pull these. I almost don't want to touch it, but yeah, it looks nasty. Yeah. Gross. All right, let's move on to the next item. All right, some of these experiments have worked out great. Some of them haven't. Some of them told us a little bit that we didn't know, and some of them kind of debunked other things that we thought we knew. So let's move on to the 2 last jars here. Now, we got this jar here. If you remember, it has the gumballs in it, which is spike balls. It has the walnut and leaves, and they've been setting in the Coca-Cola. All right, let's go ahead and hold these leaves in there and just pour this out. Nice. Gross. Oddly enough, the Coca-Cola did not change colors in this one. It didn't lighten up, didn't darken up, didn't do anything. But we're going to see what it did. Wow. You know, I don't know exactly what it did, but if you look closely, you can see the live part of the leaf, and if you look down there, it looks like it kind of killed it a little bit, or at least dyed it. Take a big whiff here. Oh, that smells like alcohol. What? All right, now we've got our soaked leaves here. Gross, disgusting. All right, we've got our walnut. It didn't dissolve it. Did it soften it up a little bit to break it? Let me see. Nope, did not. All right, get that out of here. All right, now we've got our spiky balls. Let me pour these out. They're a little hard, but they're also a little soft at the same time. I don't think it did much, just soaked up the Coke and made them a little bit soggy. But they're still pretty hard, still pretty pokey, so I don't think it did anything to that either. All right, let's move on to our last and final jar. Okay, we are to the point where we are to the last jar here. And this is going to shock you and surprise you. Let me show you what's going on. This is our jar with the spaghetti noodles. Now, what's interesting is it's some foam stuff at the top. So I think what it did was soak up all the yeast and separated it, and it moved to the top. I could be completely wrong. You know, I'm not a real scientist, but that's pretty wild. If you look at the water, it looks more like muddy pond water than it does Coca-Cola, but it's good. Let's pour it out here and see what the noodles are like. Okay, that's disgusting. Gross. All right, so now we have some excess brown stuff that's stuck to the top. I have no idea what that is. Now, it looks like there is a moldy spot in there. I'm not 100% sure, but you can see it there. Let's get these out and see what they're like. So I pulled one out here. Oh, gross. It is soggy to the touch. Oh my God, it's limp as can be too. Gross. Now, I was going to taste these noodles, but with what looked like mold in them, and then after seeing the effect of the yeast floating at the top, I don't think I am going to taste these noodles, but that's okay. I think we got what we needed out of this experiment here. All right, we have reached the end of the era. Just like Taylor Swift, nothing says I'm a woman more than pointing out all your different personalities. Woo! That's going to be it for me, guys. And with that being said, please don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and hit that little ringy-dingy thing for more awesome content, just like the video you just watched. I want to thank you for your time and thank you for your patience. And I hope to see you again real soon on the next episode. And remember, as always, there's no reason to be sorry for liking Sweet Johnny. Sweet Johnny likes you too.
What it mean to be the best? All I know is stay down, bad, I'm the GOAT. Okay, feel like the best, the great. Now ain't no debate. Yeah.